Hey everybody, we are back in the kitchen and today we're doing something that I know I say everything is simple. But this, I promise, I'm trying to remember all the recipes we've done, this will be the most simple that we've ever done. And it's amazing. So we're doing spicy pepper roast. It's not really spicy, but it is a pepper roast. I don't know why I named it that 100 years ago and it's just kind of stuck. And anyway, it is a huge hit and draw at my restaurant. I don't want this to sound all bubble-headed and arrogant because I don't mean it that way. Because I tell people all the time, it's not about my abilities, it's about my ingredients. But roast is one of our biggest things. We serve roast every Thursday, some kind of roast, and it is a huge draw. People love our roast. I use pasture-raised local meat, and my roasts have bones in them. That is huge. Now repeat after me. You want bones in your meat. You want bones in your roast. If you happen to get stuck with a boneless roast, Lord forbid, then get you some bones and put in there. Either have a bag of beef bones in your freezer that you make bone broth out of, throw a couple in, or a lot of times what I'll do is keep a couple of packages of oxtail, which is literally the tail, and it's very bony and lots of cartilage. The whole reason for the bones is you want the collagen / gelatin and you want the minerals. So you want that nutrition. When I was growing up, you couldn't buy a roast at the grocery store that didn't have a bone in it. And over time, for whatever reason, I don't know why, just our stupid food system, they started cutting them all out. Now everything's boneless. People freak out if there's a bone. I'm not paying for bone. Honey, I'm paying for bone. Bone is nutrition. You want bone. I think I beat that to a pulp. So let me turn the camera down and we'll get going on this. I'm telling y'all, the hardest thing about this one is it takes about 4 hours in the oven. Other than that, it could not be any simpler. So I just got home from the restaurant. It rained like nobody's business, like no one needed to build an ark last night. So as soon as I get this baby in the oven, we're taking off to feed our animals and going to go scout the property because the creek is up behind us and oh, it's crazy. So woo, fun times on the farmstead. But anyway, let me turn this down and I'll walk y'all through this incredibly easy but phenomenal recipe. And I will tell you, I say, let me turn it down, then I stop. One thing, this is such a multi-purpose recipe, and actually all my roast recipes are, but I kind of like this one in particular for this. You can, obviously cook it and serve it as roast with your vegetables. It makes phenomenal tacos, and that's actually what I'm going to be doing with it this weekend. This is actually for a catering gig I'm doing this weekend for a luncheon. They're serving tacos. I've used it for enchiladas. So good. Nachos. Amazing. Chop up the cold, throw it in a skillet, heat it, scramble some eggs in it. Unbelievable. Get you some sourdough. Fantastic. Homemade. Awesome. Yes, part of my loaf. Sourdough. And put a little mayonnaise on it. Drop it in a skillet, put a little cheese, put some roast, some slices of roasted red pepper, more cheese, another piece of bread. Grill that baby in your skillet. Honey, your family, your significant other, your own self will love you to pieces. So anyway, so many things you can do with this. The recipe is written for a large 12-pound roast. So I'm doing 8 pounds and I'm not going to back down the toppings. We'll talk through those in just a minute, just because I want all the extra googie for the tacos to be phenomenal. They'll be kind of like street tacos instead of your classic Taco Bell. Lettuce, tomato, shredded cheddar cheese, and ground beef. Ugh, that's gross. So anyway, and I'm sorry, the window's doing its weird thing back there with the light coming in and out, but I'm just happy we're seeing sun. We haven't seen it in several days, and this is a beautiful thing. So let me flip the camera down, and then we'll talk about next steps. Okay, so hopefully this is a decent view. So what I have here, I've got a bone-in rump roast, and I've got an arm roast that's bone-in. Why this one says bone-in, this one doesn't, I don't know, but they both have bones. From one of the local farms that I use at my restaurant. So just get that package out of the way. Look at that. Yes, that's a huge bone that I paid for, but it makes the meat so incredibly flavorful and tender, releasing all the collagen and the gelatin from all the connective tissue and the minerals you get. It's just, you just should never pass up a bone-in roast. Okay, so what I typically do, this is a pretty big one. It's about 4.5 pounds. I'm going to cut it. Let's see, how do I want to cut this? Since this bone is just about cut out, I'm just going to cut that and put it in the middle of my pan. I have one of my big stainless steel roasting pans from the restaurant. And then I'm just going to cut right down the middle of this. And then put this on each side. And then with my arm roast, I'm going to do the same. I'm just going to cut it in a little bit smaller pieces. The only reason I do that, I don't know if it's just more habit or what, but I typically always cut my roast in half. Smaller pieces will cook through a little better. It's just what I've always done. And look at that. That's marrow. That is nutritional amazing. So after this is cooked, we'll poke that out and it gets mixed in the meat. It's amazing. So anyway, all right, we're going to put this in here. One thing I will say, all right, let me take this glove off. I cut my finger the other day, my thumb, so I'm not going to take that glove off because I don't want to get pepper juice into my finger. You know, chuck roast is kind of the go-to gold standard. Oh my gosh, chuck roast is the best roast. And chuck roast is amazing, don't get me wrong. But your cow only has so much chuck on it. And you've got arm and rump, and you need to use those things. So I buy all the cuts and use them all, because when they're cooked low and slow and long, they're super, super tender. The one thing on that arm roast is kind of small, but like this rump roast, you can see the muscle fibers. I don't know if you can pick it up in the video, but they run this way, and they're pretty thick, so they can be tough. So what you want to do when this is done is either shred it, like if you're doing tacos, that kind of thing, or cut it into little cubes, and it'll just make all the difference. Okay, so there's enough of your roast lesson. So I got my big old fabulous bone poking right up there in the middle. And then I'm going to put, this is my Essence Cajun seasoning that I make. I think it actually started out as Emerald's recipe. I don't know if I've changed it or not. If I haven't linked it before, I will link it. And you're just going to sprinkle. Now remember, I don't have anti-clotting garbage ingredients. So I may have little clots in my seasonings, and I'm okay with that. See how easy that was? But you're just going to sprinkle a tablespoon of Essence. Or if you don't have it or don't want to make it, you could use Tony Chachere's, Slap Your Mama. I mean, any Cajun type seasoning blend works great. All right, then we're going to open, trying to get all that off my fingers. We've got 32 ounces of diced tomatoes. So that's your 32-ounce can of diced tomatoes. Bio Nature is a brand. These are organic. I love this brand. It is phenomenal. A lot of tomatoes, like you get at the grocery store, you're going to have lots of thin, watery juice and maybe a few chunks of tomatoes. They're garbage. So, yep, you pay a little more, but you get a quality product. This is actually, this is an Italian company, if I remember. When I researched about them, I believe that's what I learned. So, but see how thick that is? That ain't nothing you're going to see in a can of Del Monte or whatever other brand. All right, so you just want to sprinkle this around. Cover everything good. Now, if you wanted, since I'm doing 8 pounds, recipe calls for 12, you could divide everything and take a quarter out. Because like we're missing 4 pounds out of the total. I'm not worried about it. I mean, a little extra of the gooky stuff is not going to hurt a thing. Okay, so that's that. Then we need 16 ounces of cherry peppers and 16 ounces of pepperoncinis. Oh, I love these things. So we want to drain the juice off the cherry peppers. You're not going to use any of it. So I'm going to just pop over to the sink. I'll pause real quick, but I'm going to pop over to the sink and drain all that juice off and move some things around, and I'll show you the next couple of steps, and then we'll be done. So hang on. Okay, so all I did was just take the lid and just, strain all the juice out. Now, one thing you can, I mean, I wouldn't do it this way, but hey, you do you, and whatever works for you. You can just dump these in the pot and rock on. I don't want the ginormous chunks of the peppers, and I don't want the stems. So I take mine out, but see, it's not that much, so it's not going to take very long. And I'll cut the stem off, and then I'll cut my peppers in half or in quarters. It takes, 60 seconds longer, whoopee ding ding, but it spreads the peppers around, and then you don't wind up biting into an entire pepper. It's a little more mixed in with the rest of the meat and peppers. These have kind of tough skin sometimes, but that's okay. So, I mean, that's all I'm going to do here. I won't make y'all watch this whole thing. And then for the pepperoncinis, you want 16 ounces. Heck, gummit, my husband said he sharpened these knives today. They're not acting like they're too sharp. And I actually have a 25-ounce jar, which who knows why they do that. That's very odd. It's actually 25 and a half ounces. Very weird, but whatever. So I'm just going to pull out, 2/3 of it. And you can buy the pepperoncini slices if you want. These are whole pepperoncinis. It's whatever you want to do. I'm going to put those seeds in there because that's all part of the flavoring. And again, cherry peppers are not hot, so this is not going to be, I mean, you may have a tiny little bit of a kick in there, but it's not much. And I'm a big weenie with hot food, so if I can handle it, most people can handle it. All right. But anyway, on your pepperoncinis, I do the same thing. I mean, I cut them up a little bit smaller, just because I like a little bit through the whole dish, not just, a few big hunks. I'm all about, I want bites of everything in everything. So I'm just kind of sprinkling them around on top of the roast. Really simple. Get that off. And then from here, we will add some bone broth. You can do beef or chicken. I typically have chicken I typically use chicken because I typically have chicken. That's just what I make more often. But you can use whichever. Okay. And then for the pepperoncinis, you can do it either way. I mean, you can add some of the juice into this. And I will probably add a little bit. I'm going to drop these in the lid over here just to get them out of my way. Get all my pepperoncinis out. Y'all, these are going to make some rockin' tacos for this deal that I'm catering. I'm going to make some slow-cooked black beans. Oh, tiny pepper just rolled on the floor. Perfect. And some fajita rice. And then we'll have the the taco toppings. And these ladies are going to chow. So anyway, again, cut your peppers however you want. I usually do my pepperoncinis just kind of long and diagonal. I don't know why. I just do. That's just kind of what I've always done. So you can cut them however you want to cut them. And then we'll just sprinkle them on top. And I don't know for sure. I'll have to look. The recipe may say, do the peppers and then the tomatoes. Do the tomatoes and then the peppers. I don't really remember because I just kind of put it all in there. And it doesn't make a big difference which goes first, because it's all going to cook down together and make a really, really nice kind of au jus. A little thicker than an au jus, but similar, with loads of flavor. Okay, I'll pause so y'all don't have to watch me continue to cut up peppers, and I'll be back in just a bit. Okay, so there's our roast, tomatoes, seasoning, cherry peppers, pepperoncinis. And now you want to add your bone broth, chicken stock, beef stock, whatever you have. Mine's still a tiny bit frozen, and that's okay. Ooh, there's a peppercorn. Pull that out. Because it's almost thawed, and it will finish thawing real quick when it gets in that oven. And you just kind of want to, if you have completely thawed stock, you won't be doing this step. And that is all there is to that. Now, what I'm going to do is you want to cover your pan, and this is a really key thing on cooking a really good roast. You want it super tight and sealed. So I wouldn't do it personally in a Corningware dish. And I'm sorry, that's probably making way too much racket. Where you just sit a lid on there, because it's not going to seal and steam is going to escape. This is another key thing on having a very moist, very juicy roast. You want to keep all the steam, all the heat in the pan so that none of it escapes and evaporates out, and you just have super juicy stuff. So I will put my foil on, and we've talked about this in other videos, where you want to make sure and seal it in, because you want every bit of goodness left in there. Now, if your meat, here's another thing. I would make sure my pan was deep enough that the meat was not sticking up above the foil. You don't want your foil and your meat touching, especially if there's acidic ingredients like tomatoes and peppers, because they will eat through that foil that quick, and then you'll have aluminum foil in your food. Not a good thing. So you want it deep enough that it can cover flat. If you don't have that, either kind of poof it up, the tin foil, and then wrap it where it's got a little dome, or you could put a piece of parchment paper in there first and then put your tin foil. Either way, those both work, but I just really kind of prefer to have something deep. So now, this is going to go in the oven. Let me flip this guy up without making y'all ill. This is going to go in the oven for 4 to 4.5 hours on 325, not 350. But you'll kind of have to look at, play with your oven. It's the key is slow and low. So it is almost 4 o'clock. I'm going to pop this in the oven. So it'll come out at 8. We're not eating it tonight, so that's fine. But it'll be good to go for this weekend. And y'all, I'm telling you, this is so good. I would really encourage you to do the bigger size. Do the 12 pounds if you've got that, that much roast, or get that much roast, because it freezes incredibly well. So you could have some out, have a meal, keep a little leftovers, have some nachos one night, roll some up in some enchiladas, put your enchilada sauce on it, shred your cheese, or maybe not, pop that in the freezer. There's a double duty meal. You could take this and bag it in smaller amounts, however much is appropriate for your size of family, and pop that in the freezer. And then you've got ready roast for a meal, or to add into one of the bajillions of things I mentioned at the beginning. So super flexible, great thing to have on hand. Have amazing unplanned for company. Pull several bags out, let them thaw, heat it up. They'll think you're amazing. So that's that. I'm going to stick this in the oven. We're going to go have fun outside and get filthy dirty and feed the animals and see all the stuff. And then when it comes out of the oven, I'll pull it out. Well, of course, I'll pull it out of the oven. When it comes out of the oven, I'll pop back on here and let y'all see what it looks like, how the marrow comes out of the bones, how the bones just slip out of the meat. It's unreal. So we'll be back in about 4 hours. Okay, here we go. We've been right at a little over 4 hours. The incredible incredibly careful when you pull this foil off, because the steam that comes rushing out will burn you severely. I'm speaking from experience. Okay, look how tender. Ooh, and all this juice. God, that's going to be good. It's just coming apart. Now, once it cools off, I'm going to pull this bone out and get all this marrow out of there, because you don't want to lose that. And I'll get the rest of the meat off around the bone. The bone will go to the dogs. And then any little pieces of fat, I'll pull off of it. And just leave the rest for... Oop, here's this other bone. See, it's just going to slip. Look at that. It just slips right out. Oh, it's got a pepper in it. So we can knock the marrow out of it. It's really hot. Whoops. And there it goes. Well, shoot. See this little blob right here? It kind of looks like fat. That's the marrow. And I just mash it up and mix it in with everything, and it just adds nutrition to the roast. So we pull that bone out, and we are good to go. So that's all there is to it. Spicy pepper roast. It has 100 applications, and all of them are incredibly tasty. So y'all give it a shot. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you here on the next video.